Hey, what you wanna do? You wanna be a brawler, shot caller, brawler, who be dipping in the bins with the spoiler? Yizzo, how we feeling? It's Monday. It's Monday. That was Puffy. Bad boy. Take that, take that, take that. So, we've come to this point in the week where it's time for a decision. It is time for a decision. Not only one decision, two decisions. And oh, by the way, whoever participated in the comment thing, we will have that decision tomorrow. But P Diddy, he's a little older than me. Grew up listening to him, love him. Hold on, let me put this camera down a little bit. There we go. So you can see that little microphone. All right. Grew up listening to him. It was like one of the blueprints of my life. We talked about it before. Check out one of our videos from before where we talked about it. Got a lot of views, a couple of them. Also got a lot of hate too. And like with most of us, the most fun part is starting to be the comments. Didn't like some of the comments this week when I talked about Megyn Kelly. A lot of pseudo-racist comments. But that's okay as long as we can remain respectful. We're not always all going to see things the same way, which is cool. And so before we get into anything further as far as Diddy, also want to give a shout out to some new subscribers. I can't remember his name, but he had like a Tennessee Titans helmet. Shout out to you, good brother. Also, shout out to Lady Di down in South Carolina. And also shout out to my new favorite nurse, Nikki. So thank y'all. Thank y'all so much for subscribing. But now, because I've gotten, I don't want to say bashed about it, but a lot of people left a lot of negative comments before when I was saying that, Diddy has already done his time as far as, everything that it encompassed as far as the case was concerned. Now, some people look at it and say, like I said, the great Megyn Kelly called him a monster and he should be locked up and thrown away forever, throw away the keys and all this other kind of stuff. But in reality, he has been convicted of only 2 counts or found guilty on 2 counts of the Mann Act, both of which contain or he can be sentenced for up to 10 years. There's no previous precedent on that as far as anybody receiving that length of time. But we also know how cases, the ones that become sensationalized, like this one was a hot topic a couple of months ago, where they can sometimes get bloviated and blown out of proportion. So you might say, well, gee, what do you kind of think? As I was saying before, I do not think now, because I am on the side of, look, he spent a year in jail. I think that the case was a lot about nothing. But hey, I don't want to rattle any feathers. I'm not a survivor or victim of any of that kind of stuff. So I don't want to say that. I'm just looking at it just totally from what a legal standpoint I see it from. Although I'm not a lawyer, but still from what I know and what I've seen and heard and just in years passing. I believe that he should be free, or if they did want to do something, maybe a few years with some time served that he already has. In my mind, what I feel like the judge will probably give him, I don't know. I hate to even say it. It's hard for me just to see. I won't get a definitive time, but I can't see him letting him out with no less than 3 years to 5 years or some type of, even if it's not necessarily jail time, some type of parole, probation or whatever. It's hard for me to see that because he could have let him out right after the trial and then brought him back for sentencing. So that lets me know either there's some higher ups that have something to say about it, or either they just do not plan to let him go as freely as a lot of people think. And that there is a good chance that they may keep him and hold him because, like I said, they can technically now, his lawyers can appeal it, but they can technically hold him for 10 years per count. So, yeah, we've heard a lot of, most likely the sentencing guidelines say 14 to 24 months or something like that. But in reality, the judge has the final say. And from what I'm hearing, also has the jurisdiction to bump it up to those levels of 10 years apiece. Now, we're going to see just how fair the legal justice system is going to be, especially with the prominent wealthy African American. All right, because we know, as like I've said before, we know a lot of times the traditional average person may not, even with a decent lawyer, may not get afforded these opportunities to be able to get out early and not have to serve that time. But let's roll it back into something else, because sometimes what happens is, because I do also want to not totally let him off of the hook as far as the behaviors. And I think that we've all been in situations before where we've made mistakes and we've made or had very bad judgment. So yesterday I had to have this talk, and it's funny because when you're talking to people, you actually in times are talking to yourself, because as we all know, none of us are perfect, right? So I had to talk with my little kiddies last night, and I think half the time they were looking at me like, is this guy crazy? Is this guy such and such? Is this guy such and such? But I hope that they got the point of what I'm saying. And one thing I wanted to stress is that sometimes we make mistakes. So you may say, hey, what's a mistake? A mistake typically is something, in my estimation, where you go and you may not have think that this was going to happen or something, but it winds up happening, or you forgot something or something like that, and then something happens, and so it's a mistake, a pure mistake. You're doing paperwork, you forgot to do this, or you didn't know to add this, and then there's another outcome. Those are mistakes. But what is it called when you go and you consciously do certain things? Like, we all consciously know, even us guys out here, right? We consciously know, all right, you go away, you go to Vegas, you go somewhere else. I ain't gonna bring up the places we could go, but you go somewhere else, and you want to indulge in some extracurricular adult fun, and you know in your mind that if I get caught, I am going to be in a world of trouble, right? But what do we do as humans? We still say to ourselves, hey, look, self, that's not going to be me. I'm not going to be the one to get caught. So go ahead and do it. You know how it goes, because I had it happen to me before. Like, even some of us guys out, but you know what? We talk about the guys. So since I'm talking primarily to guys anyway, most times, but even if you ladies that are listening, I hope you are. You know how it goes, guys. She comes back home, and once you find out, it was a mistake. I didn't mean to, I didn't mean to mess with him. I didn't mean to. And you're thinking to yourself, wow, is that what those girl trips are about? When you go away and, all of y'all there, and then, you start sipping that cheap wine and cheap alcohol from over there, and you just need a reason just to hang out with another guy that's on vacation also, and then some things happen, but what do we all live off of? Just like how Diddy was. We live off the fact that hopefully I don't get caught. Hopefully nobody finds out. Because I know my girls ain't going to tell nobody, right? Same thing with the guys. I know my homies aren't going to tell anybody. So, what happens where we at stays where we at, right? Or so at least we think. Because some of us have private investigators for spouses, mates, girlfriends, boyfriends, baby mamas, baby daddies, all kinds of stuff. And you know how the world is, how they always say it's a small world. And what happens is that some of these things that wind up that you think that you're doing in the dark, just like with Diddy, we all knew that he may have been into some extracurricular stuff, because let's face it, most people who have wealth and privilege and power and accessibility to things, they do sometimes crazy things, right? Just think about us as regular people. Sometimes don't we try to pull off crazy things? Yo, you know what? Maybe if I talk to a girlfriend, because they not cool no more, maybe, you know what I'm saying, she'll, I'm just saying. So even in our regular lives, as regular quote unquote average people, a lot of us try little things too that we hope or think that we won't get caught for until you get caught. So in Diddy's situation, now that this has happened, now that he's caught, now that he's already gone through all of this stuff, now it's time to possibly face some consequences for those actions. Some further consequences. And you may say to yourself, hey, listen, I think, he doesn't deserve to get whatever, he's getting. He's already served time. He's already did this. He's already did that. But the problem is that when we consciously make bad decisions over and over and over again, do we deserve to be punished? Do we deserve to be excoriated or treated badly, or how they used to do back in the day? They put a scarlet letter on a woman's head who was being overly promiscuous. Do we deserve that? Because we all have something dark in our past, right? Right? Now doggone well you did something with that girl's sister and she ain't say nothing to you about it, or the sister didn't say nothing to her about it. Doggone well you messed with that person's baby mama when he got locked up. You did. Now cut it out. You've been lusting over your wife's or your baby mom's best friend's sister's cousin. You have. But hey, as long as nothing happened, it's okay, right? But in this situation, something did happen. There were women who claimed that they got abused. There were women who said they were forced to do things that they probably would not have ever done before. So it's a deal where the money was able to get him access to these beautiful women to do these things. The women on this side wanted the access to these things and these beautiful things and a lifestyle. But we all know sometimes these things, when they get together, they become combustible. And now it's out of control because I'm not getting what I want. But over here, I'm giving you all these other things, but you're the one with the money and the prestige and everything like that. And now you force me to do such and such, such, such. And guess what it all started? Because you knew what you did was out of pocket. You knew what you were doing was wrong. Now, for me, do I think it's 5, 10, 15 years wrong? No, I don't. Because these people seem to be willing participants. But when you start doing something and when you get involved, like I always say, when you start with crazy, you at a point cannot control crazy anymore. The craziness starts to control you. Because now you don't know where crazy is going to go. Yeah, she was down with it for the first 35 times. But because this is all crazy, peculiar behavior to most people, the 36th time, maybe she wasn't with it. Or because since you had her doing crazy stuff, and it was probably primarily based off of the fact that you had bread, her sense of thinking is totally different. Because the same way you used your money and influence, and I'm not to say that they didn't want to do it because they probably were already a little freaky. But here's the deal. Now that all of this stuff has happened, everybody's mind is a little distorted. I did all of this for you. Although I wanted to do it, I did all of this for you. And now you're going to leave me over here broke? Yeah, I know I cheated on you with the trainer that you hired. But, you're going to leave me over here broke after everything I did for you. After everything we did together. Because in human nature, people always want to feel like they're getting something out of the deal. So that's why I always say, to an extent, we're all selfish. We're all people that's looking to get something. Now, a lot of us are, less selfish than others. I'll give that. But when it comes down to it, even on the average level, women that deal with men primarily, now I get it. You want a guy that's kind of stable, that has a couple of dollars and all that. But when you start dealing with a man that has money, he's dealing with multiple women for the most part, right? But it doesn't matter because you still want the money. You still want the privilege. You still want nicer things. And that's how those women felt. But how do you feel when the nicer things start getting taken away from you? It doesn't feel as nice anymore. Now it feels like, was he using me? Was he playing me? Because, that's the funny thing about fast money. That's why they call it fast money. It comes and it goes fast. And then boom, you look up and you got to try to figure out a way to do it again. But as Cassie said, who is she going to go to next? Jay-Z? But she can't do that because Jay-Z's already taken. She went up to the top of the food chain. She wasn't playing no games. So her settling and being with a regular guy would have been just too regular for her. So you tell me, what do you think? What do you think Diddy's going to get this week? You think that because he's supposed to be getting sentenced on Friday, all right? Back up in New York. So you tell me what you think. Do you think that he has an opportunity to get off? Or do you think that he's going down for 5 years? Do you think he's going down for 10 years? Or do you think the judge is going to give him 20 twin? What do you think? But, I think this whole thing tells me, just like we always know with rich people and people who don't have a lot, but then the rich people are able to get things out of the people who don't have a lot. Even as an average person, watch what you wish for. Watch what you ask for. Hey, but that's all I got to say. And while I'm wishing for stuff, I wish that you would live life. Don't let life live you.